The following presentation is on the novel Cat's Cradle. In order to fully understand this novel, you're going to need a little bit more background information and some context. So hopefully this will provide that for you and enrich your understanding of this novel. Before we go any further, you're going to need the following materials: your regular notebook, something to write with, and a quiet setting. Feel free to pause and copy notes from the PowerPoint and then resume play to listen to my explanations. If you have all of these things, then we're ready to continue. The nuclear arms race. In order to understand Cat's Cradle, you're going to need to understand a little bit of history here. So I've boiled it down as quickly as I possibly can. In 1939, the Nazi government attempted to begin building the first nuclear weapons. A group of physicists, including Albert Einstein, warned the US of the dangers of Nazis with nuclear weapons. In response, the US started building nuclear weapons so they could be the most powerful force in World War II. The US eventually went on to use them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in response to the attack on Pearl Harbor by Japan. After World War II ended, the two biggest remaining world superpowers were the United States and the Soviet Union. Eyeing each other suspiciously due to their conflicting styles of government, democracy versus communism, and their immense power, neither side wanted to be outgunned. Post-World War II, the US and the Soviet Union stockpiled enough nuclear weapons to cause the end of the world, although neither side ever launched them. This period is referred to as the Cold War because both sides gave each other the cold shoulder without actually attacking. While this might seem far in the past, we still have these stores of nuclear weapons. So the threat is very real, and it's not going away anytime soon. In order to understand the novel, you're going to need to understand postmodernism. But before we can understand postmodernism, you need to understand modernism. Modernism was a literary and artistic movement that stretched from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. It was an attempt to start questioning long-held beliefs and traditions because artists and thinkers felt it was holding them back. Make it new was the catchphrase of modernism. So what comes after that? Postmodernism is a literary and artistic movement that stretches from the mid-1900s all the way to the present day. It uses all of the aspects of modernism plus an increased distrust of any absolute truths or locked-in universal facts. Instead, it promotes the idea that everyone's understanding of the world is colored by their experiences. So Cat's Cradle is postmodern to the extent that it has a large number of characters without a clear-cut main character, and it constantly shifts back and forth between perspectives and ignores traditional chapter structures. Some of the chapters are as short as one paragraph. Satire. Satire is an attempt to criticize or mock specific people or perspectives through ridiculousness or over-exaggeration. People in power are frequently the targets of satire. Think about it. If you only pick on the lowest people or weakest people in society, doesn't that just make you a bully? Instead, they use it to target the people with the most power. And in order for something to be satire, it needs to have a very specific target. If you'd like to look for other examples of satire, The Onion, the website, is a great source. Dark humor. Dark humor is an attempt to take something very serious or troubling and make light of the situation. Often, when people struggle to cope with the horror of a situation, they make jokes about it to make themselves and others feel better. So, for example, Kurt Vonnegut in this novel is thinking about the end of the world, but he does it in a way that's funny, because that helps ease your fears and worries about the actual situation. Cat's Cradle. This is where the title of the novel comes from. Cat's Cradle is a children's game that involves two players and a single loop of string. The two players weave the rope around their fingers into different shapes and configurations, but the rope always remains fully connectedness. The title of the book references the interconnectedness of people and things. Even though the string looks very different and very complicated throughout the game and takes a lot of different shapes and forms, it's still the same string and is still tied together. Fun with words. And this is one of my favorite things about Kurt Vonnegut. One of the main appeals to his writing is just how much fun he seems to have while he's writing. Throughout Cat's Cradle, you should reflect on the following made-up terms. These are words that he came up with. Bokononism. It's a religion which everyone knows is a lie, but which helps you to become a good person as long as you follow its teachings and keep in mind that it is a lie. You can't get swept away in it. A karas. A karas is a group of people linked in a cosmically significant manner, even when the links between the people aren't quite obvious. And the opposite of a karas would be a granfalloon. A granfalloon is a false karas. People who imagine that they have a connection, but that connection doesn't really exist.